Welcome, everybody. Today, I'm going to be talking to you about the Elire Cloud Readiness Scorecard. My name is Richard Merrill. I'm one of the partners with Elire, and I'm ultimately responsible for the delivery of all the client-facing projects. But in addition to that, I have about 25 years experience working with clients on transforming their business processes, transforming their technology, helping develop roadmaps so that they can more fully capture the value of their technology and achieve best practices. And in many cases, within the last several years, those roadmaps have involved answering the question of how do I go from on-prem applications to cloud applications. And so this cloud readiness scorecard can really be thought of in terms of that larger picture, which I wanted to just hit that larger picture first before getting into the details of the scorecard. So at Elire, the way we think of moving from on-prem to the cloud is on the graphic in front of you, which is moving from day zero, which is if you are currently utilizing on-prem applications, utilizing on-prem business processes, then we would consider you to be in what we call day zero. And typically our recommendation there is not just to sit, on your hands, but to really maximize the value of your on-prem investment. That might mean looking for opportunities to automate, get rid of paper, get rid of manual workarounds that involve Excel spreadsheets, to decustomize. But there's a lot of things you can be doing with your on-prem application as you're thinking about moving to cloud. One of those things is conducting a scorecard assessment, which I'll talk about in a minute. But once you achieve some sort of cloud implementation, some sort of cloud go live, we would then consider you a day one customer, right? You're on day one of the roadmap, I should say. And you might have gotten to implementing cloud with a big bang approach. Maybe you've done it in a slower phased approach that has some coexistence between on-prem and the cloud. But again, this scorecard I'm about to talk about will really help you understand how ready you are to begin that journey and how smooth that journey will be. And then even as you look beyond going live and having a solid foundation on cloud, you could look ahead to day two in terms of cloud optimization, further expanding your cloud footprint, introducing digital assistants and chatbots and Oracle guided learning and automated testing and lots of other cool functionality, right? But today I really want to focus on helping clients understand their readiness to move from day zero to day one with the cloud readiness assessment. And over the next few minutes, I'll actually be walking you through all 11 of these criteria, because the way it works is we would sit down with you and evaluate your organization along these 11 different criteria and determine your overall level of maturity. The more mature you are, the smoother your journey to cloud would be. And in order to make it a little more digestible, I'm going to break it into some subcategories. And the first subcategory of these 11 criteria would be people readiness. So you can see there's a few highlighted with the green check mark. We're going to hit those first. And these are all assessment criteria that involve gauging your people's readiness to make the move to cloud in a way that is smooth, making a smooth journey from day zero to day one. The first of these people criteria is motivation readiness. This is really about unearthing your core drivers and guiding principles for cloud migration. What we would do during this assessment is ask questions to really make sure that you as an organization have achieved some level of clarity on your business objectives. Why are you about to start this journey? What are you trying to achieve? And in some organizations, it might be cost savings. In other organizations, it might be trying to have access to more agile technology that can be updated on a more frequent basis. But whatever those objectives, we want to make sure that they're understood, documented, communicated. The second item is alignment of guiding principles. And I like to think of guiding principles as those things that help you stay within the guide rails of a successful project. They can be things that help you make key decisions when it comes to requirements, configuration, design, etc. And examples of guiding principles might be uh, that you want to achieve best practice, or you want to decustomize as much as possible, or you want to automate as much as possible, right? So what are those guiding principles? Are they documented? Are they understood? Are they communicated? And then for stakeholders, have you not only identified your stakeholders, but do they buy in to these business objectives? Do they buy into those guiding principles? The more you have all of these defined, the more you have buy-in, the more mature you are, the more ready you are, the more motivated you are to make that migration from day 0 to day 1. And that also includes performance metrics, which is sort of giving you the capability to measure your success along the way. If you're trying to achieve cost savings, if you're trying to achieve operational improvements, how are you going to measure that? And do you have those capabilities in place? The second people criteria is governance readiness. And this is really around establishing a strong governance framework for cloud success. Do you not only have a project team in place with a set of resources and a PM, but do you have a decision-making structure that's also in place that might include a steering committee or executive leadership? Do you have a framework for making those decisions, for escalating issues? That goes beyond just the implementation team itself. And then, are you engaging your stakeholders? On the previous slide, we talked about, do you have the buy-in? And buy-in is very important, but we all know that we can have stakeholders who believe in a project, but then actually don't dedicate any time to help on the project. And so this is really making sure that you have stakeholders who are engaged and that you have the critical time that's necessary for this project to be successful. The next people criteria is change management readiness. And the first one of these is a change management strategy. How, as an organization, are you going to communicate on an ongoing basis throughout the life cycle of the project all of the updates that stakeholders and key business users need? And how are you continuing to engage them throughout the life of the project? Again, it's important to have buy-in, it's important to have engagement, but you want to make sure you not only have it on the kickoff, but you have it through every phase of the project and beyond go live. In addition to that, the assessment would be measuring your level of training preparedness. Do you have a training team, training resources, training tools in place? Do you have a strategy for training? Do you want to use Oracle guided learning and deliver training on the spot? Or do you want to use job aids or a train the trainer? And then who's developing the training materials and how are they being delivered? And how are you measuring training success? So we would be evaluating all of these criteria to come up with your overall change management readiness. And then the final people criteria is resource strategy readiness. And this is really about creating cultivating a skilled and agile workforce for the cloud. Think about your organization today if you're on-prem, and think about what roles you need to support the on-prem business processes and the on-prem technology. And then think about what roles you might need to implement cloud and to migrate some of these processes into the cloud. And then go one step further and think about the roles you might need post go live to support it and maintain it and update it. Do you really understand all of those different roles? And secondly, do you have a resource allocation plan? So do you know who is filling all of those slots? And are they filling it with an appropriate amount of time? Is someone giving you an hour a week when you really need 10 hours a week? So again, measuring and asking some questions around resource strategy is designed to determine your level of maturity when it comes to this, as well as the other people criteria. And the higher your maturity, the more ready you are to go to cloud from a people point of view. Now, the next category of criteria, and there's only two of these, is around process readiness. And similar to people readiness, it's all about measuring your overall level of maturity so that the more mature you are, the smoother your journey will be from day 0 to day 1. And I will say that part of the scorecard is not just measuring maturity, but then giving specific recommendations on how to improve maturity. The first of the process maturity is deployment strategy readiness. And this really involves tailoring your migration approach for maximum impact for you and your organization. And as an organization, have you made your deployment approach selection? And is everyone behind it and bought into it? And by deployment approach selection, I mean, at least at a big picture, are you going to go big bang? Are you going to go with a phased coexistence approach? The phased coexistence approach might mean keeping some modules on-prem and some in the cloud. If you're going phased, what's the order of those modules, right? Are all of those decisions made, and are people bought into them and supporting them? In addition to that, as you make the migration and as you move these processes into the cloud, are you trying to do a transformational reinvention of the process? Get rid of every manual workaround, go to only best practices? Or are you doing more lift and shift? Maybe you're doing something in between. What we have often found is that organizations that have varying points of view here run into lots of road bumps on the journey to cloud. And so understanding this is really important. If one part of your organization is saying we want to lift and shift, and the other part of the organization is saying we want radical transformation, then that's going to lead to a lot of conflict in requirements and configuration sessions. And it's better to figure that out now than in the middle of the implementation. The other deployment strategy readiness criteria include project timeline and milestones. How long is this going to take? What are the key milestones? That can be tying back to that resource allocation plan as well of when you need key people. Are you monitoring your risk? Are you recording your risk? Are you assessing them? Are you mitigating them? That can tie back to the governance structure of having a mechanism to then escalate risks, right? And then what's the role of a consulting partner, if any? Is a consulting partner going to help you maintain your existing on-prem system while everyone's focused on implementing cloud? Or maybe they help you implement cloud, or maybe they help you with post-implementation go live, or maybe they do all of that, right? But what's the role of the consulting partner? The second process criteria is business process mapping readiness. And this is really around identifying and addressing critical gaps for seamless migration. Do you understand how your business processes work today? And do you understand how they will work in the future? And if the future involves an interim step of coexistence where some things are on-prem and some things are in the cloud, that can add an extra layer of complication. And so understanding how your business processes are evolving and what they're going to be in the interim and the final desired state is really important, because then you're mapping functionality of the cloud up against those business processes and seeing if the cloud can meet all of those needs, or do business processes need to be redesigned? If there are gaps, what are those gaps? And then more importantly, what's your action plan for addressing them? And is your action plan in line with those guiding principles we talked about a few minutes ago? If a guiding principle is achieving best practices, but you want to close a gap with a manual workaround, that doesn't necessarily feel like that fits, right? And so again, it's really understanding and measuring your level of maturity across these people criteria and process criteria that will help define your organization's overall readiness to go from day 0 to day 1. Now, the final set is around 5 criteria. And these are all around systems readiness, right? Because not only do your people need to be ready and your processes need to be ready, but you need to have an understanding of your systems and be ready there as well. The first of these criteria is technical architecture. Now, this is really around optimizing integrations and extensions for a robust cloud ecosystem. And these include enterprise architecture. Do you have your architecture mapped, diagrammed, communicated, understood today? Do you have that mapped, communicated, understood for what the future state's going to be like, or maybe even an interim step, right? If you're doing a coexistence strategy. And along with that, do you really understand your data strategy? Where will your data reside today, in the interim, and in the future? How will it get there? How will it be protected? How does it reside within integrations? Speaking of integrations, do you have all your integrations inventoried, right? And by inventoried, it's not just knowing what they are, but what's the direction of the interface? What's the data that's being transferred? How is it being transformed? What tools and technologies are being leveraged to build, support, maintain those integrations? Really being able to answer all of these questions gives you a higher level of maturity when it comes to your technical architecture. The second system criteria is data conversion readiness. The second system criteria is data conversion readiness. And this is really a very important criteria because we find that data conversions can often make or break a project. And the reason for that is it can be very tricky to move the data, as you can all imagine. Part of moving the data is understanding data mapping. How is your data residing in your table structures today? How does it need to reside in the table structures of the cloud application? If you're going with a coexistence interim phased approach, how does the data map in for those interim steps as well, right? And then what's the quality of your data? What we have found is that clients can sometimes overestimate the quality of their data, which means they're underestimating the amount of work it takes to migrate their data, which means they might not be building enough time into their project plans and enough resources and expertise into their projects in order to do that job well. Some examples of that might include your address data or your job department data. How cloud treats address data or job department data is very different than how a typical on-prem application treats it. So part of your data quality, part of that data mapping is going to be, does that data need to be transformed? Does it need to be converted? And if so, what conversion tools do you have? Now, Elire has done lots of these and has developed several proprietary conversion tools that can really help you along the way. But if you're not turning to us for that expertise, you need to be thinking about how are you going to be converting that data? How are you transforming the data? And then, of course, we all know that not all data goes with you. You might only be taking your top line data. Some portion of your data is going to not make the journey to cloud, and you need to have your archiving strategy in place. Where will that data reside? How will it be saved? How will it be accessed? How will it be stored? Now, when it comes to cloud, one of the great benefits of making the migration is that there are a lot of improved tools to really transform your data into actionable insights. So we just got done talking about transforming your data, but it would be remiss to think about the journey to cloud without also thinking about transporting your reporting and really understanding your reporting readiness. That can begin with a simple reporting inventory. What are all the reports I use today? What data is on them? How are they created? How are they distributed? Who's using them? But then if you're thinking of approaching your implementation with a strategy of just duplicating every report that exists today, we would really challenge that and ask you to think about your level of ability to rationalize those reports. What reports are not really used and could get gotten rid of? Which reports could be combined? Maybe more importantly, what data could be transmitted, shared through new visualization tools that are available in the cloud, and really break out of the paradigm of just delivering PDFs of reports, right? So do you have a reporting inventory? Do you have an approach for rationalizing the reports? And then, as I mentioned on the prior slide, not all data is coming with you. So what's your approach to accessing that data and reporting on that historical data in a manner that's easy, efficient, accessible? Do you have that strategy in place? The next system criteria is security readiness. And this is really around ensuring compliance and fortifying cloud security. So, we talked earlier about understanding all the roles that are required on a cloud project. But from a security point of view, what are the roles and what is the data access? What are the permissions that those folks are going to require? Permissions to perform transactions, permissions to see and view data. Do you understand how that works today? Do you understand how that needs to work in the future? And do you understand if you have specific security requirements for you and your industry, your company, your organization? If you're a federal client, that might include FedRAMP. If you're a healthcare client, it might involve HIPAA. But gauging your organization's understanding of these crucial security controls, processes, and industry-specific regulations is all of what this part of the scorecard's about. And the more prepared, informed, and ready you are, the more mature you are, and the smoother that journey will be. The final security criteria, and actually the final of the 11 criteria, is customization readiness. And this is really around maximizing alignment and minimizing customization complexity. Now, at the very beginning, I talked about if you're on-prem today, we would consider you to be a day zero customer. And while you're in day zero, it's a great opportunity to be examining your business processes, examining your technology, to ask yourself, are you as automated as you should be? Have you decustomized as much as you should be? We often recommend decustomizing in the technology rather than waiting to decustomize in the middle of a cloud implementation, right? And so as part of your readiness scorecard, do you have an understanding of all of those customizations? Do you have an inventory? Do you know how they work? And do you have a strategy for each one? What's the cost of those individual customizations? What's the benefit? Are you going to get rid of them now? Are you going to get rid of them during the implementation? Are you going to try to keep them? And if you keep them, does it create a requirements gap with what the cloud can do for you? And if there is a gap, how will you close it, right? So you can see a lot of these criteria interrelate with each other and interact, whether it's a people criteria, process criteria, or a systems criteria. And that really wraps up walking you through those 11 criteria. And the goal of this is really to educate you around how Elire thinks about measuring an organization's readiness to begin the journey to cloud, begin that journey from day zero to day one and beyond, and helping you as an organization figure out your overall level of readiness. And if you're not as ready as you would like to be, what specific recommendations can be made to help you get more ready and help you have a smoother journey. And if this sounds helpful, if this sounds intriguing, if this sounds like something you'd like to talk to us about, we definitely recommend scheduling your own scorecard assessment by contacting PS2Cloud at illuminate.com. You can follow us at Elire Inc. on the various socials. You can also get in touch with us at illuminate.com on our website. So thank you so much for your time today. Again, my name is Richard Merrill. We at Elire look forward to talking to you about your journey to cloud, about moving from day zero to day one, and making sure that that journey is as smooth as possible. And a great way to do that is by starting off with a simple scorecard assessment across these people, process, and system criteria I just reviewed with you. Thank you all so much.